Welcome to my channel. My name is Lorrayne and I'm super excited to start recording true crime and lifestyle videos for you guys. I'm super into true crime. I watch videos literally every day. Kendall Ray, Bailey Sarian, Bella, every day, plus podcasts, crime junkies, stuff like that. I'm obsessed. And I've been wanting to start my own YouTube channel for ever. And it's something that is it's totally my dream to just do this full time someday. But I've always been so scared of talking to the camera, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm looking away or if I stutter my words. I'm super nervous, but I am also super excited, and I'm glad that I'm finally taking the steps to do it. But okay, enough bothering about me. Let's get into this case. I was actually inspired by somebody on TikTok to look into this case. They had made a short video about it, and I really thought it was super interesting, so I wanted to do my own research, and I kind of made a whole script about it, and I was like, this is gonna be my first video because it's so interesting to me. And I'm sure other YouTubers have done it, but that's okay. The TikToker who I saw it was JBaby96 on TikTok. So go check her out. I loved her video, obviously, because now I'm making my own video about it. So this case takes place in 1974 in Oregon in the United States. It consists of the Cowden family, which includes 4 members and a puppy. And you have to remember the puppy because he is super important later, so don't forget him. The family consisted of Richard Cowden, his wife Belinda, and their children, David and Melissa. David was 5 years old and Melissa was just 5 months old, and then they had their dog named Droopy. Remember, don't forget him. They lived in White City, Oregon. This case takes place a little bit of ways from White City. Richard supported his family by being a truck driver, and Belinda was a stay-at-home mom. And one thing that the family loved to do together was camp. They were a camping family, and I can totally relate to that. My dad loves camping, not my mom so much, but that's a different story. A little bit before the disappearance, Richard had planned to haul a load of gravel for the driveway, and he was gonna spend the Labor Day weekend getting the job done. But unexpectedly, his truck had broke down, so instead of hauling all the gravel, they just decided they were gonna go on a family camping trip for to celebrate the Labor Day weekend, spend some time together. Plus they loved camping, so it was gonna be a little family getaway. They went to the Siskiyou Mountains and they camped by Carberry Creek in Copper, Oregon. On Sunday, September 1st, 1974, Richard, the dad, and his 5-year-old son David decided they were gonna go to the Copper General Store on foot around 9 a.m. to buy some extra supplies. I think specifically they were gonna go buy some milk. Then they left the store and they were going to head back to their camp. This would be the last time anybody saw any members of the Cowden family alive. That evening, Belinda's mother was growing kind of concerned because she had actually only lived about a mile from the campground, and she was expecting her daughter and her family to come over for dinner. It was growing kind of late and she hadn't heard anything. So she decided she was going to go to their campsite just to see, if there was a problem, if the kids were giving them troubles, something happened, they forgot. But when she arrived, there was no sign of the Cowden family at all. What was weird was that the truck was parked and the keys were on their camping table, so they hadn't have driven anywhere. Belinda's mom maybe thought that they were on a hike or something. She started noticing some weird things. There was a dish full of cold water that was being cleaned that was just laying on the ground, and Belinda's purse was on the camping table next to the keys in plain sight. And Belinda's mom knew that she wouldn't have just left her purse out like that. It's a pretty popular campground, the mom just lives a mile away. Could be anybody walking by and they could have stolen it. So she thought this was super suspicious. Their diaper bag was also left behind, and that was super suspicious to Belinda's mom because, they had a 5-month-old daughter, and you never go anywhere without the diaper bag. You gotta have your supplies for your baby. The camp stove was also completely set up, and there was a half jug of milk, the one that Richard and David had gone on foot to buy earlier that morning. To add to the suspicion, Richard's extremely expensive wristwatch was found on the ground with his wallet. So not only were there the keys left behind, the truck left behind, Belinda's purse, the diaper bag, now the super expensive watch and the wallet were on the ground. There was also a pack of cigarettes, which was the brand that Belinda had smoked, and it was also on the ground. And Belinda's mom thought that was weird, If you're going on a hike, you're probably going to want to take a smoke while you're walking, you're outdoors, it's the perfect place. So Belinda's mom went inside the truck to see if anything was amiss, and she found all of the family's clothing except for their bathing suits. So now she's thinking, okay, maybe they didn't take these things because they were going swimming in the nearby creek, right? So she's like, it's okay, I'm just gonna wait here for them. They're gonna come back. It's totally fine. After about an hour of waiting for the family, she decided to notify the authorities. The sheriff, troopers, and District 3 office of the Oregon State had all shown up at the scene. Officers searched the scene until it got so dark that they couldn't even see their hand in front of their face. And there was still no sign of the Cowden family. After this, the investigation was kind of pushed back for a day because there was no indication that there was anything amiss, like there was no foul play, there was nothing suggesting that the family was in danger. There was nothing that kind of said that the scene was violent or that anything really bad had happened. The following morning on September 2nd, the dog Droopy, remember I told you to remember him, he actually showed up at the Copper General store that David and Richard had just been at. He was found scratching at the door, and you could tell that he was hungry, thirsty, and, kind of in distress. This kind of told police that they kind of needed to look into this right away, because why would this family not show up and take care of their dog, their beloved dog, and how is there no sign of the family besides this dog? And all of their belongings are just at their campsite unattended. The search for the Cowden family was one of the biggest in Oregon's history, including state and local police, the National Guard, Explorer Scouts, the United States Forest Service, and hundreds of volunteers. The U.S. Forest Service searched 25 miles around the campsite on foot and from above with a helicopter with infrared imaging. Despite this very large searching effort, there was no signs of the Cowden family except the family dog Droopy. The official search was ended just a few days later on September 7th, but many family and friends would continue going out to the area on their weekends to continue searching. The disappearance of the Cowden family was extra suspicious, not because of everything that I've mentioned before, but because the family was in little debt. They seemed so happy from the outside, to neighbors, to friends, and even to close family. Everybody said they were happy together. There were no known problems in their marriage or in the family. They were not behind on any type of payments, and Richard made more than enough money to support his family. So they didn't think this was a case of running away, changing identities. Maybe they thought Richard had killed the rest of them and run off. It really didn't make any sense. So it really seemed unlikely that they had voluntarily disappeared. It also didn't seem like there was a robbery because the purse, the watch, everything was just left at the campsite. And when officials searched the creek, there were no bodies, so it ruled out a drowning. A few early suspects were quickly eliminated, and there were no leads in the case. It went cold for months, and officers were beginning to lose hope. One officer was quoted saying, "We got some of the strangest, most bizarre calls. Tips where they were and what they were doing. They were seen in Seattle. They were seen in San Francisco." So it was just really weird. There was nothing that they really could go on. Then 7 months after the family had disappeared, 2 gold prospectors were hiking through the woods near Carberry Creek when they discovered the decomposing body of an adult male. He was tied to the tree on a steep hillside, around 7 miles from the location of the Cowden family campsite. In a small cave nearby, there were the bodies of an adult female, a child, and an infant. The entrance of the cave was blocked with rocks to hide the bodies and conceal anybody from seeing it. Positive identification records were made of the bodies through dental records, and it was the Cowden family. Autopsies revealed that Belinda and her 5-year-old son David were killed as the result of a .22 caliber gunshot. The 5-month-old baby Melissa had been killed from blunt force trauma that had caused her skull to bash in. Medical authorities were unable to determine how Richard, the father, had died. Detectives thought that maybe Richard had been the one to kill his own family. They searched the area for a gun or any sort of weapon, but they couldn't find anything. If he had been responsible for the death of his family and his own suicide, then there would be a gun or any sort of weapon lying around, but there wasn't. The authorities believed that on Sunday, the 1st, after Richard and David had gotten the milk from the Copper General store, they went back to the campsite and they had a swim in the creek. They predicted that a short time later, probably before noon, the family was abducted at gunpoint. They theorized that it was probably by somebody that the family didn't know. They thought that they were probably put into a car or truck of some sort, and they were driven far, almost 7 miles away from their campsite, and forced up the steep hill. This is where Belinda and David were shot, and baby Melissa had her head bashed in. One family from Los Angeles, California had come forward and said that they had been at the campsites at around 5 p.m. that evening. They had seen 2 men and a woman in a pickup truck. They quoted, "They acted like they were waiting for us to leave, and frankly, they made us nervous, so we moved on." Based on the location of Belinda and the children's bodies inside the cave, the lead detective believed that the murders were carried out by someone who was familiar with the campgrounds and was local, and he knew where the cave was. After the bodies were found, a volunteer who had searched for the family when this case first surfaced came forward to police and said that he had searched in that area and seen that cave and that there were no bodies there. The police were, kind of hesitant on this, so they said, "Okay, take us to the cave then." And he took them straight to the cave where the bodies were found. When the bodies were discovered, police bagged everything up, including minerals from the ground, soil, everything that they could. However, evidence was scarce after being left in the open in the woods for over half a year. All that was left at the scene was a single bullet that belonged to a Marlin rifle. Now I'm going to get into some suspects for the case. One suspect is Dwayne Lee Little. He's been implicated, but he's never been charged with the murders. He had been paroled from the Oregon State Prison just 3 months before the murders took place. 10 years earlier, he had kidnapped and raped a 15-year-old girl. State police were able to confirm that Little had been in the area of the campsites on Labor Day weekend around the time that the Cowdens were there. Little's girlfriend told law enforcement that she had seen Little with a .22 caliber gun during Christmas, and the following January his parole was revoked after she had informed the police. In 1980, he was out of prison and he picked up a pregnant woman on the side of the road. She was 23 years old and her name was Margie Hunter. Her car had broken down near Portland, Oregon. He then sexually assaulted her and brutally beat her, but luckily she survived. Little was then charged and convicted of attempted homicide. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences. He was never cooperative with any type of mental health treatment, and he refused to talk about any murders that he was accused of. Police believed that the truck that the witnesses had seen the day of the disappearance was Little and his parents because their truck matched the description. Both Little and his parents denied even knowing about the Cowdens' disappearance. We do believe that Little and his parents were both there at the campsites because a miner who lived in a cabin just a little ways away had Little and his parents both sign a guest book that he had. Floyd Forsberg, an inmate who at one time shared a cell with Little, claimed that he had confessed of the Cowden murders. But we'll never actually know if Little did these crimes because he refuses to talk about it. Unfortunately, Richard Cowden's father had committed suicide just a couple of months after the bodies were found, but he was cleared of any involvement in the disappearances and murders. Over 4 decades later, facts of the Cowdens' murder are still unknown. Police believe that foul play was 100% involved, but was it Dwayne Lee Little or was it somebody else? This was such a brutal murder in America's wilderness. This kind of leads me into the next part of the video. This case, the Cowden Family Massacre, is a little short story in the big timeline of all of the disappearances that happen in the United States national parks. Since the National Park Service was set up in 1916, over 1,000 Americans have vanished without a trace in the national parks. The National Park Service leaves it to local police to track and investigate any of the disappearances. Since there's basically no database of people who have gone missing in the national parks, it's really hard to investigate and see if there's any common themes or trends in the disappearances. Of course, some of the missing persons can be explained by tragic accidents, things that are an inherent risk of exploring the outdoors, such as animals, falling from the peak of a mountain, or being exposed to extreme weather. But cryptozoologist and former police detective David Paulides, and forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, has a different theory. Detective Paulides, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was super interested in all of the cold cases, and he began doing his own research and sifting through all the data that he could find about missing persons in the national parks. He was particularly interested in cases where families and persons had just simply vanished with seemingly no trace, much like the Cowden family. He had noticed that in a lot of these cases, There were rescue dogs and police dogs that had been brought in that could not or would not perform their normal duties. Paulides believes that there was something supernatural that occurred, like Bigfoot, paranormal activity, something like that, or even aliens in some of these cases. However, something a little bit more believable that is also a huge theory among people on the internet is that there are feral people who are living in our national parks, and that these feral people attack civilians, sometimes resulting in cannibalism. Of course, there's no actual documentation of these feral people living in our national parks, but there's lots of claims on things like Reddit, YouTube, and TikTok. Personally, I don't know what I believe actually happened to the Cowden family and other missing peoples in the national parks, but it's definitely something weird. Really weird. Of course, all of this can be explained by evidence maybe succumbing to the elements and things like that, but it's definitely something to think about. That's all I have for you guys today about the Cowden Family Massacre and the killings or missing people in the United States national parks. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm so excited to post it for you guys, and I'm really nervous, so please be nice in the comments. Again, I'm sorry if I pronounced anything wrong or I was looking away from the camera, anything like that, but I'm super excited to post this. Let me know what you guys think is going on in the national parks. Do you think it's Bigfoot? Do you think it's ghosts? Do you think it's aliens? Or do you think it's something a little bit more believable like feral people? Or maybe none of them are even related at all. Who knows? Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!